was thinking of making a video a while ago about crack up boom in a zero marginal cost society, and this terminology, crack up boom, refers to when a financial system engages in endless money printing and usually in older models of this kind of scenario, there is a period of deflation until there is collapse in confidence in the currency, and then everything becomes there is an onset of inflation, and all the prices go up because many investors and many consumers, they totally lose confidence in the currency, and as soon as they get the currency, they want to just spend it. And then also the central bank, which is the case right now, keeps printing more, handing it out to their friends or to zombie companies. And this is a very valid scenario, and probably United States will suffer a currency collapse. But I think that there are some factors that are mitigating it, and I want to go over some of these ideas. And it's I don't know if you have seen some of these older comedies or circus acts. Well, there's this guy, there's one comedian. He's constantly about to fall into a ditch or fall off the high wire, and then there's the other comedian constantly saves him, comes behind him. That's so funny. That's kind of like what's going on with the U.S. dollar, why it hasn't collapsed after all this time, all the disasters that have taken place. Well, it might now, and but there is some trends, some forces that might be delaying it at least. Well, some economists or some technology aficionados, they would say that all wealth comes from technology. All wealth, all the new wealth and the old wealth comes from innovations in technological or scientific discoveries. And what we are all missing out is that the pace of technological innovation has been so rapid, and we are not seeing all of it because a lot of it is being hidden in labs, in government files. A lot of it has not only technological implications, but also has military. Also, there are technologies that can completely revamp society in ways that we would not be able to maintain our culture or society the way that we are used to, or that the way we would like to. I could tell you an example of this and how this technology has been hidden because it has a lot of consequences. But then I hope I don't get too much into it, because I want to go after these concepts regarding interplay between crack up boom economic times plus zero marginal cost society. There's like two forces that are working. But the electromagnetism was discovered a long time ago. It has been centuries. But part of the electromagnetism is also a force that exists or is generated when the current goes through a wire. Or this is really very counterintuitive because there is electrons going on a wire, but then it's generating a force which is acting in a different direction. And actually, this force or this consequence of electromagnetism was later on used by some scientists to create anti-gravitic devices, and also if the current is cycling and is very high, it could also repel Higgs particles from a region of space. Then whatever vessel was in that region, it would be like it was disconnected from the universe and could travel very fast. But this is kind of the basic idea behind the UFOs. But it doesn't end there, because when these other effects come into play, when a region of space gets disconnected from the universe, then when it joins back into the universe, when the Higgs particles comes in, then that point is back inside inside a four-dimensional space-time, which means that it can you can skip a second or two or a couple of thousand years. It's the basis for time machines, but it's so complex that I don't know. I think the Russians built some devices, but they lost their scientists. I think Nazis also did some experiments. So, this technology, some of the math and some of the technology has been hidden in many labs in the United States. They hid it. They would say it's undermines their national security. But imagine a society which in 1960s or 1970s that had perfected this technology, like they had built their own little cubicles that you could go in there and skip another 50 years, or go back into time of Jesus Christ. Well, if the public in these societies, they knew or they were manipulating this, then really there wouldn't exist a public, because all kinds of people would be going all kinds of places. There is for a society to exist, there should be constraints on time, which means you cannot travel in time. You're stuck here and you have to interact with the next guy who's also unable to time travel. Okay, the same goes with the economic constraints and forces that are keeping us together. Well, another example would be if everybody had a little car that could also have anti-gravitic properties and could fly to moon. So, I mean, how much of the society that we have here would remain? It wouldn't be much. I think that this might sound very strange. I think that there is aliens, they don't want us to live, because we are a very violent species. We are a threat to many other civilizations, and also the United States has proven this over and over. And well, there is some research showing about moon or Mars, that the creatures that occupy these places, they really, really do not like the Yankees. And this might sound very strange, but who says that we Iranians are anything better? We are not. What we might, our religion teaches us, Christianity teaches peace, and but the Iranians they break the law too. There is tendencies now that we are getting the upper hand militarily, that some Iranian theoreticians, I know one, Omid Dana, he's saying stuff like, let's recreate the old Persian Empire, like, please don't. We'll be just like Americans, and everybody will be hating us instead of hating the Americans. But this is one thing. The technology has very deep, very dramatic consequences, and people, they don't see that this consequence is, if it happens, there really will not be a society anymore. That society will fall apart. Well, let's talk about for example, a consequence of something that the central bank is doing, that's completely destroying society, or completely deforming it into a shape or into a situation that we will not be able to put it back together, as if like a huge section of society got hold of anti-gravity and time machines, and they went all over the universe, and there wouldn't be a Los Angeles, because you know what I mean. We are here because there are constraints to what we can do. There's a funny expression in Persian. It goes like this. It's kind of like asking a question. Like a kid asking, "Oh, Dad, well, how would it be if my pretty little cat had two big wings too?" His dad says, "I hope not. There won't be any birds left." So we are here because there were constraints, and when something, either technological or financial, removes these constraints, then things are going to fall apart. Well, I was watching USA Watchdog, and Greg Hunter was talking about cornfields. Like I have talked about this in another video, that if you give a cornfield, when you plant corn, a tremendous amount of water, because corn is not like rice. Rice needs a lot of water. Almost the water has to be sitting on top of the rice. But if you give a lot of water to the corn will not be able to generate roots. It will not have time or motivation to generate deep roots and grow. So the constraints with the water amount is very important. And if you forget or you make a mistake, you will destroy that crop. The same has been happening with the U.S. Banking system. They've been pumping so much money into their economy, and this money has been finding its way into almost everywhere in this economy. So many companies, I talked about this in another video, it's called Singularity and Zombies. Well, it doesn't have to be technological singularity, it just could be a lot of money. A lot of companies in the United States, they don't produce anything. They don't provide any kind of service. They are totally zombies. And they are not coming back, because all they've been doing the last 20, 30 years is finding gimmicks to get money from the stock market, buying their own shares back, getting loans from the bank, doing this, doing that. They haven't really invested any money in factories, in educating the workers. They don't really have any product that's a new product. Most like a spacecraft that the U.S. used to make belong to the 60s and 70s. Their anti-aircraft systems belong to the age of Patriot. They are a wreck. They are just like the cornfield is full of water, and these investors and these manufacturing company executives, they are they are, they are totally corrupted. They're worthless. They cannot regenerate even the society that was back in 1960s. But more than that, the money has been coming in such quantities and such has gone so many places. It has had an effect on a large portion of the population. I'm talking about like white males. The white males were the ones that like babied a lot more than the rest of us. But it has also cascaded to some extent to blacks and other people. Well, I live by Chapman. I'm 57. It's like a freeway, and there's these guys. They're white hobos, homeless guys, or supposedly homeless, and they come in with a sign by the it says need food. Oh my! They put on some raggedy clothes. And some of them they make like $500, $600, and all the women they stop and give 10, $20. And by the end of the day, this guy's got $600, $700, and then they are all drug addicts too. And basically, this pumping of money has dissuaded a large portion of the population to not look for work. There are work, there's jobs, but a lot of people they don't want that. For example, I work as a security guard. I'm telling you, Mike, there are very few people that really want the kind of job I do. I mean, most people here, almost anybody that I've seen, they despise my job. So this excess of cash and currency, it has destroyed their ambition or motivation to develop a career, whatever career, as art or as an artist or a scientist or engineers. Well, like 30, 40 years ago, many Americans, they were, the most important thing for them would be a job, would be their profession, whatever they were doing. But then as the money kept filtering in, the first thing that happened is that they exported all the jobs, and all the machineries that went with that job and all the technologies that went with that profession all got exported. And when new technologies came in, like 3D printing, well, they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to. There is technologies, 3D printing. You can print entire cars. You can print entire electronic segments. But the few companies that they're getting into it, and most of them they're foreigners or Europeans. Because Americans, they're just too lazy. They're too well fed, and they got too much cash coming in. Also, what it has ruined, there is a culture that goes with with many professions. It's not simply a set of technologies or a machine. It's the ways and the tradition that went along and came to this point. Well, I was talking to my professor. I was taking law courses, and then because of the COVID-19, the school closed down, and we were arguing back and forth. I told him, you can take all kinds of law courses or engineering or courses in mathematics, but there is a component of these professions that's that's in the culture, in the courts, is in the applications, is in the demeanor of the people who practice this. You could, you know, for example, a violinist. Everything matters. The violin matters. Who made the violin? Who has played it? And the way you learned it from the teacher you learned it. Some stuff, or a lot of stuff, aren't things that you can learn intellectually. There is a component to it. There is a culture. There is a demeanor that you gotta have. So a lot of that stuff got lost is because of all this stupid cash that's finding its way everywhere. And I think that the banks and the government, just to save them, so they're gonna ship out all kinds of the cashes. Well, I watched some videos that there is a stimulus checks coming out. The first one came out, the second one came out. That they're gonna be a basic income, maybe 1,800, 2 grand, maybe, I don't know. Who's gonna buy from the remaining companies if the government doesn't give them all kinds of cash? Would they want to go back working like 10, 12 dollars an hour in a shoe factory? I don't think these guys will do it. Okay, so these obnoxious amounts of cash that finds into all kinds of places here, it has changed society. It has changed. It has removed constraints that were part of the manufacturing, part of the culture, and now we're gonna enter into a domain that's radically different. What's also gonna happen is because of robotics, AI, machines are gonna take over making many of these products, and then that's not the end of these changes. The cost of producing these things. What if the cost of producing one of these nice shoes that I'm wearing, which I bought for $10 from Walmart, which is kind of like a tennis shoe, pretty good shoe. What if the cost to produce these dropped to like 3 cents, which is not very outrageous thing to. Oh, and what if instead of Walmart selling them for $10, it found its way to the 99-cent store, and then the 99-cent store really was selling most of the stuff that were being sold in Walmart. What if then? What do you think? What kind of economic environment would that be? Or what if we are in an economic environment that the dollar store sells almost anything that a person could use, supplements, shoes, Hawaiian shirts. Or what if things went that way, and then at the same time the central bank was issuing the $1,800 adult American? What if then? What what kind of economic collapse would we have? We won't have an economic collapse or even inflation, because all the constraints have been removed. The cost of goods and services have collapsed to almost zero. But there is this money that used to have value, historical value, and it's still finding its way into many places. Well, in such an environment, the only things that would really retain its value would be things that it would be difficult to procure, difficult that they will not be cheap or free or anything. You have to shell out cash for those things. Well, I could think of gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, uh, well, prostitution, uh, purchasing contract killers, war, uh, let's see, buying political favors. Uh, well, there is a limitation on land. You cannot just generate all the land you want. Yeah, well, is there limitations on food products? That you have to buy them? No, because all the machineries will be producing so much food. We don't know what to do with it. It is the same right now. The cost of production of agricultural products has plummeted to zero. So we are going to have a crack of boom, but then it might peter out because there is everything is coming in a zero marginal cost environment. The everything has been devalued too. Right? It's like the currency and the commodities, they jumped off of the same plane, and the relationship between them always stay the same. Uh, but, but is there a floor that they will fall in and die off? I don't know. Might be zero. That the currency is worthless, but everything else is worthless too. So uh, is that the collapse? But would everybody die off? No. Uh, Basically, technology, it has replaced the currency. Everything will become like a game show environment. You know, like how you just play a game, and then every once in a while you hit the jackpot. You get a bunch of gold coins. They are not really gold coins, but but you can use them to buy whatever that's in that game. You know, you can buy a potion. I know some people they hate my ideas, and I will never progress to be like Max Kaiser or other people. I'm always confined to being like an academician, have my crazy ideas. Well, the zero marginal cost society is already here, but we are not very conscious of it. Uh, the other thing that's happening, and I have talked about this in other videos, is that the cost of labor has collapsed in many countries, and the only reason that it's high is because of minimum wage laws, and other countries they need to institute minimum wage laws too. Well, actually, Iran has some kind of basic income. They call it rayane, which is free income. Usually, the Iranians, when they want to hide something that doesn't sound right, you know, like giving free money to people, they go out and dig out these really old Persian names, you know. Belongs to the age of Hachamanishian, like 5,000 years ago. Rayane means Majani. Majani means free, but you know, they don't want to use the word free in that sense. They dug out the word Rayane, and maybe in the United States we're gonna have you know, something that's similar. Well, I think they already have found it. They call it stimulus, you know, like stimulate you endlessly. Just like you play in the video game, you get all these gold coins. You didn't do anything for them, and but you can buy everything you want. And anyhow, uh, I know you hate my ideas, my lectures. Well, I was looking at the books I had downloaded. I found this book or mini book. It was called Mathematical Modeling. I took it and converted it to audio. I have a program that converts it to audio. I'm going to listen to all of it, and uh, it, I think that's the kind of the meaning of my a lot of my work is modeling what's actually happening, and that's the right book for me. Well, I also had another book which is like 50 mathematical ideas. Goes through all these really refined concepts. Well, I was listening to. I started from the back of the book. Usually, I converted it to audio, and I'm listening to the last section because usually when I read the books, start from the beginning, and most mathematics books they start from ancient Greeks and those concepts, and they are boring. So I've switched. I'm going back to the reading the most modern, and then going back into the earlier epochs. Well, I was hearing all these terms refer to different mathematical animals, to chaos theory, to topology, to control system theory, and somebody thought about these ideas. Well, there was another concept that was very interesting. When I was in college, I was taking fluid mechanics, and in order to generate these equations, we had to come up with the control volume concept, where you make an imaginary box around the region of space, and you write the equations for that imaginary part. But maybe some of the models that there exist in economics, they're written in that same way. They're always considering United States and modeling what goes on here, or what if this place has changed so much and so interdependent to all these other places, and it's being influenced by the tremendous amount of cheap labor that exists in the world, tremendous advances in robotics, in technological innovations, that really there does not exist a control box volume that you can write equations and relate. Or what if some of these old models on economics, even though they are very good models, they're going to now work, or the future economic outlook is so strange that none of those models work. Well, just like I discussed about how removing major constraints that keep society together might generate a society that totally uncontrollable and totally unmodelable, and nobody knows what's going to happen with it. Well, another thing that's happening is that uh, the the Fed is publishing all this money. The Europeans are publishing all this money, and the money going everywhere, also going to cryptocurrencies and silver and gold and things that are finite. And then if something happens to these central banks, the price of cryptocurrencies, silver, is going to go through the roof. I don't know what's going to happen to the price of land, some models they might not work. I don't know if crack or boom model or stage is really going to work, but I know that the central banks have really screwed up world economy in ways that might be very strange in the future. Uh, well, thank you very much for putting up with me, listening to my zany ideas. Uh, Please subscribe and don't be shy. Leave a comment or two.